It's delicious.
Welcome to my channel. It's Lavi here. Sorry that it's been a hot minute. So what I wanted to talk with you about today is if you have prospects to come and teach in China, here are a few tips for you. So I want to start with a story time. It may help for those people out there who are looking to want to come to China and basically what to expect. Bill is a person of color. He's a British citizen and he's currently working in China as an English teacher. And then we have Teresa. Teresa is a Chinese national who is a recruiter on behalf of schools or teaching schools that are wanting to have English speaking natives in their schools. So Teresa posts in a group platform called WeChat of a current potential job tutoring part-time to some, Chinese students that want to learn English. So Bill sees this post and contacts Teresa to ask for more information, and he's interested in this position. So then Teresa's like, okay, send me your CV and I'll get back to you on it. So Bill sends his CV to Teresa, and then a couple of weeks go by. He doesn't actually ask her about it. He's too busy doing other things. A few weeks go by and Teresa then posts another recruitment position, which is another teaching position on this WeChat platform. And Bill was like, okay, let me try and apply for this one again, because I still want to do some part-time on the side to earn some more money. So Bill applies, and Teresa then contacts him personally on the WeChat platform, and then actually tells Bill the outcome of his previous application. So Billy's like, okay, what happened with that one? And Teresa's basically saying, oh well, Bill, they were chasing me for more information about you, and I didn't reply in time, but then when I finally replied, I asked them what they were looking for, what they needed to know more about you. And Bill's like, okay, yeah, well, what was it that they were asking about? And Teresa basically said that they were asking more information about your background, like where are you from, and what your ethnicity was, your nationality, and all this stuff. And he's like, okay, so what was the question? What did you tell them? And she said, well, they asked me what your nationality was, and I told them that you were of African descent. And Bill's like, what? No, I'm not of African descent. That would be my ethnicity. If they're asking for my nationality, I'm a British citizen, like I told you before, and it also says that on my CV, right? And she's like, oh no, it's your background, like who you are. And I told them that you are African descent. And Bill's like, well, technically, if it comes down to technicality, Bill tried to inform Teresa that when you mention nationality is completely different from ethnicity. So if you're saying, Teresa, they asked me for my nationality, you should have told them that I am British. I am native English speaking citizen that's also teaching here in China, so I'm qualified for the job. If they asked about my ethnicity, as a British citizen, when we fill out the equality form, we say that we're either Black, British, other, Black, British, African, Black, British, Jamaican, Black, British, Latina. There's different types of forms. But if I was American, then you would say I was African American. But I'm not American, I'm British, so you kind of should have said my background is Black British. Did you not tell them that? And she's like, well, Black, British, African American, you're all from African descent, right? And Bill's a bit kind of thrown off about that question, especially having just explained to Teresa what his background is, being a British citizen. So Bill is like, okay, forget about that. What you should have said is that I was a British citizen nationality. My ethnicity is Black British Caribbean or Black British African. So Bill is intrigued now. It's like, well, what exactly was the response, Teresa, when you told them I was of African descent as my nationality? And Teresa's like, well, they kind of came back to me and said, well, you know, him being of African descent is kind of unfortunate, so we won't be pursuing with his application, because even though his CV looked really good, we can't actually accept him based off his nationality being African descent. So Bill is kind of like, so I didn't get the job because you told them I was African? And Teresa's like, well, basically, yeah. So long story short is that being in China, if you're a person of color, it's a little bit more difficult to get those extra tutoring jobs if they're one-to-one with children. It's not really the recruiter's fault, it's mostly what the parents' preference is. So some parents, Chinese parents, are looking for, you're the brand of being English, an English native speaker, which is Caucasian, blue eyes, blonde hair. You know, what you see in social media, what you see on TV as being diversely, not diverse, just white. So if you speak English, then you must be white, yeah? It's some kind of weird, non-logical ideology in China that if you speak English, then you must be white. You can't be any other color. That shouldn't exist. That is not normal. If you're a person of color, then you must only just come from Africa. That is it. You can't speak English because you're from Africa. Yeah, that does exist here, unfortunately. So yeah, it comes from the parents' preference. So they're looking for a white person to teach their child. Although there has been some stories where they have had a person of color teaching the children, and the children have got scared because they're not used to seeing a darker complexion of a person. So then the parents have in their minds that this person of color is going to terrify my child. I can't have them teaching my child. No, it's not going to happen. So then the recruiters are stuck with this little box to fill. And even if you're white, you don't necessarily have to be a native English speaker. You could be Russian, you know, or Hungarian or whatever, and you will get the job because you are white. Unfortunately, that is how it works here. So there are a few people that I know myself that are working here and are white and have had the issue of like, well, I don't feel my English is fully at that standard, but for some reason I am still getting this job because of my appearance. Yeah, getting a job in China is pretty difficult if you're a person of color. Even if you do speak native English, it is difficult because of that perception of if it ain't white, then it's not right kind of thing. So all I can say is don't be disheartened by that. My advice is to keep on trying, because there are some schools out there that are looking for diverse cultures, and it's best to go with an international school, or a school that's well known, or a school that you can find on Google. Teaching schools are not really the best standard, and they will promise you a lot of things, get you to sign a contract. Your process of a visa might take ages, and when you finally do touch down in China, it's not what you signed up for, it's not what you expected, and you're kind of stuck, because then changing visas, finding a new position does take its time here. The other advice is, if you are applying for jobs in China, it's best to put on your CV if you're a native English speaker. And some companies, probably about 85% of companies, look at CVs with pictures on them, you know, a passport photo of yourself, because it kind of just sounds shallow, but what you look like is going to get you that job. Sad but true. Embed yourself in the culture, in the language, learn some survival language tips, and get some Chinese friends, talk with them, immerse yourself with the Western friends, but not too much. You need to have that diversity if you're going to be here and live and work in China. Like, it's just a no-brainer. So yeah, I hope that's helpful for some of you that want to venture here in to China as an English language teacher. Also, there are some guidelines that you need to adhere to be an English teacher. You need to at least speak English. Some recruiters do look for non-native English speakers, but I think you have to also have an IELTS test, or at least a TOEFL test, to see where your English language level is at. But overall, good luck. Bye guys, see you in the next one.